Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is number 143. I am recording on January 19th, 2026, and I just finished watching Since You Went Away. This one was available on YouTube. So, once again, $0 for this round. As I mentioned last time, I think I'm going to have to rent the winner. So, we won't get away with all of them, I guess. Since You Went Away is a 1944 American epic drama film directed by John Cromwell for Selznick International Pictures and distributed by United Artists. It's an epic about the U.S. home front during World War II that was adapted and produced by David O. Selznick from the 1943 novel Since You Went Away, Letters to a Soldier from His Wife by Margaret Buell Wilder. The music score was by Max Steiner and the cinematography by Stanley Cortez, Lee Garmes, George Barnes, and Robert Bruce. The film is set in a mid-sized American town where people with loved ones in the armed forces try to cope with their changed circumstances and make their own contributions to the war effort. The town is near a military base, and some of the characters are troops serving stateside. Though sentimental in places, Since You Went Away is somber at times about the effects of war on ordinary people. Some characters on the home front are dealing with grief, loneliness, or fear for the future. Wounded and disabled troops are shown in the hospital scenes. This one starred Claudette Colbert, Jennifer Jones, Joseph Cotten, Shirley Temple, Monty Woolley, Lionel Barrymore, Robert Walker. I had seen Lionel Barrymore's name in it, but I really don't even remember him. Shirley Temple, man, I think she may have been my first crush when I was very, very young, from her younger movies. She was probably about 15, 16 in this. Joseph Cotten obviously has been in several movies, starting with Citizen Kane, at least in the movies that I've been watching for this. Claudette Colbert's been in a few, Cleopatra, It Happened One Night, I think, maybe. And Jennifer Jones was just in Song of Bernadette from the last year, which I did not like at all. I did not like her really. And she was okay in this, but we'll get to that. I already read some of the other stuff. This was edited by Hal C. Kern, James E. Newcomb. This was released July 20th, 1944, with a runtime of 177 minutes. That is 2 hours and 57 minutes. And I had, when I searched it on YouTube today, it came up with several different versions or several different postings of it. And one of them said full movie, but it was listed at 2 hours and 50 minutes. And I was like, well, I don't want to miss anything from it. So I found one that was 2 hours and 57. As it turned out, there was a 5 or 6 minute overture at the beginning, and then there was about a minute of intermission in the middle. So I guess the 2 hour, 50-minute version might have been the full version, just without all that. Oh, and I forgot to mention Monty Woolley was also in another movie I watched for this, which was The Pied Piper a few Oscars back. Reception, according to the New York Times critic Bosley Crowther, Since You Went Away features a script with an excess of exhausting emotional detail. Crowther was impressed with performances, but had issues with the film as a whole. As the mother and center of the family, Claudette Colbert gives an excellent show of gallantly self-contained emotion, and Jennifer Jones is surpassingly sweet as a well-bred American daughter in the first bloom of womanhood and love. Robert Walker is uncommonly appealing as the young soldier whom she tragically adores, and Shirley Temple, now grown to teenage freshness, the weird way to say it, is pert as the young sister. Monty Woolley makes a full-blown character of the man who comes to lodge Joseph Cotton's role as the Navy playboy, and Hattie McDaniel, who is in Gone with the Wind, does an Andy act quite well. No doubt this would have been a sharper picture if Mr. Selznick had played it in much less time, and it would have been considerably more significant had he kept it somewhat closer to average means. 2 hours and 51 minutes is a lot of time to harp on one well-known theme, loneliness and anxiety, and that is all this picture really does. Once again, Bosley Crowther and I are in sync. Great performances, but damn it, it was long. I mean, 3 hours, and there really isn't. It does build some relationships between the older daughter and a soldier who also happens to be not happens, he's the grandson of the lodger that they take in. That's how they meet. So it's not just happens, but they met for a reason. But it just, it does just kind of go over the same things over and over again. By continuing on, before I get too much into that, this was nominated for 9 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Actress for Claudette Colbert, Best Supporting Actor for Monty Woolley, Best Supporting Actress for Jennifer Jones, Best Production Design, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score for Max Steiner, which it won, and Best Visual Effects. And under the heading of In Popular Culture was the farewell scene between Jane Hilton and Bill Smollett, Jennifer Jones, and Robert Walker at the railway station. Was parodied in the film Airplane. And as I was watching that scene, that's all I could think of. There. So he gets on the train to leave for war, and it's kind of from his perspective, and you see her running along the train. You know, I love you, Bill. I love you. And she's passing all these like posts that, you know, are holding up the train station or whatever. And I just kept thinking, like, I know I've seen that before, but the woman runs into the pole. And that was Airplane. That's pretty funny. This did have like a, you know, it was very emotional in parts. It was silly in parts. A lot of that to do with the lodger that they take in, played by Monty Woolley. But like my man Bosley said, it just was very sort of repetitive over a long period of time. And you know, some characters did build some relationships, but a lot of it was the same sort of things over and over again throughout the whole movie. So it was very much a movie for the people at home. It was a movie for the wives that stayed back, the women that went to work, you know, that took on war work, and the families that the soldiers left behind. And to some degree, the soldiers themselves. Like, there's obviously some characters in this that are getting ready to go off to war. And this is, like, you know, right in the heart of it, 1944, when, you know, looking back on it, we know there's only about a year or so left in the war. But, you know, I don't know what the thought process was then, if they knew that things might be coming to a close or not. You know, it had already been 3 years. So, yeah, so it was, I mean, it was fine. It was decent. I gave it 3 stars. It's just, you know, way too freaking long. They could have cut an hour. And it's always, I always think it's easy for me to say they could have cut this, you know, they could have cut 10 minutes. And I don't know, as a director or an editor, like how easy it would be to really cut that stuff and still tell the story. You know, Kevin Smith always talks about how editing is kind of the last time for you to make the movie. And, you know, as him being a writer, director, editor, sometimes he, you know, gets to tell the story in the writing, and then he gets to tell the story as the director, then he gets to tell the story again as the editor. And, you know, things can be changed around just by from script to screen by just changing, you know, which take was used, the way the actor played it, things on the page, or even things that were the director gave, can then be manipulated in the editing phase. And I just think sometimes less is more, sometimes it's not. But this also seems like a very long movie to have put out at a time when everybody was probably very busy. Like, you know, these women were at home a lot, sure, but there also were a lot of families. As I said, the women were going out and taking on war work, or whatever they could find while their husbands were away. The soldiers were in training or busy in the war. So it's kind of a weird, like, did anybody have 3 hours of time they could just go and see this movie? I don't know. So it's kind of a weird one to me, but it was good. You know, they're certainly not the best one. I really like Double Indemnity and Gaslight. So far this round, I've had 2 4s and 2 3s. We'll see how it goes with the winner. And I'll leave it there, I guess. And I'll see you next time.